I was wrong about the first election. I didn't think people would. I didn't think people would vote for someone who was so deeply flawed. I mean, I know Donald Trump. That's the thing is people. I have his phone number in my phone book. He was the guy that came to the bars and asked me about which cocktail waitress was single. That's who he was.
The authoritarian, the demagogue, it goes away when they go away, and he will go away. And we will, and they don't have anybody that's as charismatic as him. He's charismatic. There's no taking that away from him. He's a television star. He is. He's charismatic. I mean, I don't agree with him at all on anything, but, he was famous from a television show.
The President of the United States made it very clear he wants to see me and the hundreds of people who work here fired from our jobs. Our leader celebrates Americans losing their livelihoods because he can't take a joke.
Trump's presidency has become such a circus that even seasoned entertainers like Jimmy Kimmel and George Clooney can't resist turning it into comedy gold. And why not? Every day feels like a parody written by interns who gave up halfway through. Kimmel has made a career out of mocking absurdity, and Clooney is the Hollywood poster boy for suave criticism. Together, they treat Trump's presidency like a blooper reel too long for television.
He's going to be a factor for a while. It's so funny because, he was just this knucklehead. I knew him before he was, a president. He was just a guy who was chasing girls. Every time you went out, he'd come over and be like, "What's the name of that girl?" That's all he was. And the idea that there's this whole group of people that, that they think he's the champion of, which he certainly can't stand in real life. But, he's gonna play this out for a while, and we'll see where we go with it.
If Donald Trump wins, have you thought about the possibility he might use the power of the federal government against you personally?
Yeah, I have, but I'm comforted in the fact that he's coming after you first.
That makes you feel better?
Yeah. That theory about you don't have to be faster than the bear, you just have to be faster than the one kid. You're that one kid, pal.
I'm the kid. Yeah. I'm the slow boy.
If you're enjoying this video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. The roast begins with the sheer spectacle of Trump's public appearances. Kimmel doesn't need to invent punchlines when the president does his own physical comedy, lumbering across stages, waving his arms like a malfunctioning marionette, and pausing dramatically as if waiting for applause that rarely arrives on time. Clooney piles on by pointing out that no actor in history has worked harder to miss their mark on cue. He calls Trump's stage presence less presidential and more like an amateur audition that somehow made it past the first round because the judges were too polite to laugh in his face.
There's a rumor making the rounds this weekend that Trump was dead because he hadn't been in front of a camera for a few days. That's how much he's in front of a camera. When we don't see him there, we assume he must be dead. And also he has mysterious bruising on his hand, which they tried to cover up with makeup. And this cover-up's even sloppier than the Epstein one. How can anyone let him go out like this? Like he was spackled. He had to have done that himself, right? Looks great, sir. No one will notice a thing. The White House claims the reason for these bruises and his big fat elephant ankles is he suffers from a condition known as chronic venous insufficiency, which in layman's terms means he's got a very small venus.
Kimmel has a field day with Trump's obsession with rallies. No matter what crisis is unfolding, Trump clings to his crowd like a struggling comedian refusing to leave the stage after bombing a set. Clooney adds that it feels like watching a washed-up lounge act still demanding standing ovations for the same tired routine.
Able to squeeze Colbert out of CBS, then he turned his sights on me, and now he's openly rooting for NBC to fire Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers and the hundreds of Americans who work for their shows who don't make millions of dollars. And I hope that if that happens, or if there's even any hint of that happening, you will be 10 times as loud as you were this week. We have to speak out against this.
The policies become comedic fodder, too. Kimmel skewers Trump's constant fixation on walls, bans, and tariffs by describing him as a home improvement host gone rogue. It's like watching someone on a reality show try to build a fence around the entire world with duct tape and ego.
The damage that's happening to places like USAID is, it's remarkable in its damage. It's going to be very hard to fix. I am surprised at how effective it's been against the universities, against the law firms, in the willingness to burn it all down.
Clooney jumps in to underline how these ideas often collapse under the weight of their own contradictions. Yet Trump insists on presenting them as if they're revolutionary breakthroughs.
He's gunning for our journalists, too. He's suing them. He's bullying them. Over the weekend, his foxy friend Pete Hegseth announced a new policy that requires journalists with Pentagon press credentials to sign a pledge promising not to report information that hasn't been explicitly authorized for release. That includes unclassified information. They want to pick and choose what the news is. I know that's not as interesting as muzzling a comedian, but it's so important to have a free press, and it is nuts that we aren't paying more attention to it.
When it comes to international relations, the material writes itself. Trump's awkward meetings with global leaders look less like diplomacy and more like a bizarre family reunion where no one invited him, but he showed up anyway. Kimmel describes the photo ops as hostage situations in which world leaders appear desperate to escape. Clooney elevates the roast by reminding everyone that presidents are supposed to project stability, not force other countries to become unwilling co-stars in slapstick sketches. The economy, once Trump's favorite talking point, becomes another punchline. Kimmel reminds his audience how the president paraded around like he personally invented prosperity. It's that he believed confidence alone could suspend reality. Of course, no roast of Trump would be complete without addressing his legendary late-night social media sprees. Kimmel describes them as drunk texts from the most powerful man alive. Except instead of regretting them in the morning, Trump doubles down.
He posted in July, so now fake movie actor George Clooney,
Yeah,
he doesn't know that movies are fake, does he?
I don't think so.
Who never
Hannibal
came
Lecter
close
is his guy.
to making a great movie, is getting into the act. He's turned on Crooked Joe like the rats they both are. What does Clooney know about anything, says the host of Celebrity Apprentice. Clooney should get out of politics and go back to television. Movies never really work for him.
Clooney says it's like watching a soap opera unfold in real time, except the lead character keeps writing his own terrible dialogue. The absurdity is that these messages, often riddled with misspellings and ramblings, have the power to shift global markets, yet read like they were typed by someone wearing oven mitts. Then there's the constant need for flattery. Trump's insatiable hunger for praise makes him less like a president and more like a pageant contestant fishing for compliments. Kimmel mocks how he insists on surrounding himself with loyalists who clap on cue. Clooney goes further, pointing out that no serious leader should need daily affirmations just to function. Together, they frame Trump's presidency as a therapy session gone wrong, where the patient insists he's already cured while demanding constant reassurance. Kimmel has no trouble poking fun at the sheer volume of legal headaches circling the presidency. By doing so, they cement the idea that his legacy won't be measured by traditional markers of leadership, but by the sheer volume of jokes it inspired. What should have been remembered as solemn governance instead mutates into a cultural punchline, a case study in how power without discipline turns into its own parody. Kimmel circles back to the idea of television, pointing out that Trump's obsession with ratings means his presidency could be remembered less as a governing era and more as a series finale gone horribly wrong. Clooney sharpens the jab by saying even the worst soap operas at least tried to tie up their storylines, whereas Trump left cliffhangers nobody wanted resolved.